Good Sunday morning, everybody. You know, in the 22, 23 years that I've been producing and hosting this program, we've had just a whole long list of wonderful guests. But the one that is putting chills in my spine right now is our guest today, Art Laboe. What a career! What a life!
Well, very pleasant Sunday.
Likewise, but how much pleasure, how much joy you've brought to millions of people through your music.
Well, you know, when we're in the studio on the air, we don't have people there, just like, and so we don't know we're doing that. But I've heard that, and it does make me feel good when other people call and say, "You make me feel good with your nostalgia. It brings back memories and all."
Any idea how many dedications you've read?
I don't know. It's got a lot of zeros.
Yeah, for sure. There's one thing in your life that you're especially proud of, and we've got a picture here that we want to show folks. It's the, look at that.
Oh yeah, that's me on the Walk of Fame.
It's in 1981.
In 1981, July 17th.
What did that feel like?
Oh, well, you know, it's real exciting. I was up for that for 3 years, but finally got on there, and my assistant came to my house, and I was working all-night radio then on KRLA.
Yeah.
I was the program director, and she banged on my door real loud because she knew I was up for it, and I opened the door and I said, "Well, this better be good." She says, "It is. You got your star on the Walk of Fame." I said, "That is good."
Yeah, you know, and I covered that. I had just come to work here at KTTV from KTLA. And I covered that, and I was just thrilled. I was just thrilled. And unfortunately, the tape from that has disappeared someplace. Your career goes back and begins at KSAN, San Francisco. Oh, that's where it begins. Okay, because we've got photographs here.
Yeah.
And we're going to work through them. There was another station. Here's our sequence, KPMO. That's after
Pomona.
Oh, remember that photo?
That looks like my son, not me.
What were you doing in those days? What kind of a radio show?
Just talking. Look how happy I look. I mean,
look at that. Well,
I mean, I was.
You still look that happy.
I know, but I was, on cloud 9. I'm on the radio.
Yeah. It was a talk sort of show, or did you play records?
Music. Always playing. Probably in those days. Let's see, that would be about 1947. Something like that. I'm playing the big bands, I'm playing Doris Day and Les Brown and even Les Paul.
It was, may he rest in peace, Les Paul. It was a different kind of music then, very different, and radio was very different then too.
Yeah, but there was no TV yet. Just barely, they're starting to talk about TV, but there was only radio and movies.
Yeah. Now here's your photograph at KSAN. Was this in San Mateo?
San Francisco.
Oh, it's in San Francisco.
Yeah.
What a serious look.
Well, I'm 18 years old in that picture, and I'm thinking, hey, I'm on the radio. I got to look serious here.
Had there ever been another dream for you? Had you wanted to maybe be a doctor or a lawyer, or had radio always been the choice?
No, I don't think I want to be a doctor, and I sure wouldn't want to be a lawyer. Lawyers don't get mad at me now. All my lawyers that I know tell me lawyer jokes, so they're cool.
But radio had always been?
Yeah, when I was a kid, when I was 7, 8 years old, radio was only in its infancy, and all the big stars were on radio, Bob Hope and Burns and Allen, and I used to sit there and just, with my hands like this, staring into and listening to everything. My mother couldn't pull me away from the radio. I listened to soap operas, I listened to news, I listened to all the announcers, I just absorbed all this. I was just completely enthralled with this box that talked. It was amazing.
And where was this? You were growing up, was it here?
Salt Lake City. I was born in Salt Lake City, but I moved to Los Angeles when I was 9. And that was a long time ago.
But, you have always, did you always have the voice of a radio announcer?
No,
Because you've got it.
Well, guess I got older, I got better,
Listen to you.
You want to hear how I got my first job?
Sure, absolutely.
At KSAN. I was in the service at the time. And I was working at Treasure Island, San Francisco.
Right.
And I was a radio technician. And so, but before that, I'd always been interested in radio. So I went to KSAN, and walked in and asked the receptionist if I could see the general manager. And she said, yeah, just down the hall there. So I walk in, and there's this guy there with bushy eyebrows, and he's doing it, and he looks up and he says, who are you and what do you want? I says, well, you know, I told my name, and I said, I want to get a job on the radio. And he looked at me and he says, no, you're too young, you don't have the voice for it. He says, we don't have anything for you here. And I says, well, I just wanted to see. And he says, besides, he says, you'd have to have an FCC license. And I said, you mean one of these? And I pulled out my first phone and my second telegraph and my ham license. He looked at it and he said, you're hired. Oh. And I said, well, but I thought, he says, I said you're hired. Came over, put his arm around me. He says, I need that license on my wall. All my engineers have been drafted, and I'm operating illegally till I put that up on the wall. Oh. And that's how I got my first
Talk about
job.
being in the right place at the right time.
That's it.
And again, was that a record music show?
Yeah. No, I didn't have a show. I was just the board operator.
Oh, I see.
And then at 11 o'clock at night, when no one wanted to buy time, this was a small station, and they had all kinds of things on there, churches, vitamins, things like that. So they had an hour at the end of the broadcast, which at those days radio stations signed off at midnight. Right. So I had an hour to do, and I played records.
Let's look forward to another picture here.
Okay.
KXLA.
Yeah, which is now KRLA. Uh-huh. It's the same station.
And we can't really see it here, but it's a Scrivener's.
Yeah, it's a drive-in restaurant. Uh-huh. And I got this idea with my engineering background. I thought, well, I can do a show from a drive-in restaurant, and people will come, and I'll talk to them on the radio. Yeah. And it went over very big.
Let's look at the next photograph here. There it is, the roving disc jockey.
Yeah, I made that little truck. I bought it, and see those little towers?
Sure.
I put them up there. and on the back of that truck, you can't see it here, maybe you can, but anyway, it says, this is not a fish wagon, because I used to go around selling stuff. And that was done, that's about 1951 or 52.
Now, about that time, I'm listening to you. Well, it's a little bit later, actually. You're on KFVD, which becomes K-pop, KPOP. And I have to tell you, Art, that you gave me a sense of religion because you did two shows. You did one at around noon, and then one in the evening. But the one at noon, you were preceded by Brother Henderson. Oh, yeah. Remember?
My good friend.
A lot of us would listen to him in anticipation of, you did, what, a half an hour or an hour?
I don't remember, but it was
really
very
short.
Small little show.
Yeah, and that was a station that went off at sunset.
Yeah, that's right.
And that you were doing a show later in the afternoon. What was that like? Every day your show ended.
It wasn't every day. It would be when the sun went down, we went down.
Right, right.
So I come on around 3 and then till sundown. And that show that would be about late 55, maybe early 56. So that show went on the air just when rock and roll was starting. So I was the first one to play rock and roll on the West Coast.
We've got another photograph here. And this is where the big change happens?
Yeah, that's it.
This is
Wilshire and Crenshaw.
And that's Joe Houston.
Yeah, Joe Houston. And let's see, who else is there? There's my ex-girlfriend. Oh. He's there. And just some people from the drive-in. The chef is there, and all clapping hands, you know.
And if we can come back to the set just for a second. Right about this time, you come up with this idea. Yeah. Oldies but goodies. Where did this come from?
I was doing a show at the drive-in, and we're taking requests, you know. And people would say, we're asking, you know, for Big Joe Turner and the big stars of the day, Chuck Berry and stars like that, Jackie Wilson. And so from my previous time at the drive-in, I was playing, when I had my earlier show, in the middle of the night, I was playing rhythm and blues. I was playing Little Walter and people like that. Right. So I had some background. I was playing Big Joe Turner and some of his earlier stuff, even Ray Charles. And so I put some of these at the bottom of the list when I pass out a list to the kids to pick their songs, the top 20 at the bottom. And so just somehow it had to be an old song, but it had to be a good song. It had to be a good song. It didn't matter if it was old. It couldn't just be old. It had to be old and good. Right. So then it called it Oldie But Goodie. And started at the drive-in, really, before the records. That's where it started.
Oh, sure, of course. the man is full of so many stories, and we got to take a break.